Hey everybody, this episode of Better Content Everywhere is all about podcasting. Hey everyone, welcome to Better Content Everywhere. This is the podcast that helps you create clear, consistent, and compelling content, no matter where you're creating. Our digestible and bingeable episodes are going to give you one key learning every single episode in a format that fits into your busy schedule. So today we're going to talk about podcasting, and specifically we're going to talk about how do you humanize your podcast. Humanizing your podcast is really the difference between a good podcast and a great one. Your ability to authentically connect with your audience and bring the best out of your guests and in your stories is a real differentiator, because when people tune into your podcast, it's very personal for them. It's much more intimate than simply reading an article online or even watching a video, because it's tapping into something much more primal that really ties to the oral history that was required for so long for us humans, right? So how do you do that? Well, there's really three ways. One, you prepare your guests well. Two, you prepare yourself well. And then three, you have to be willing to share yourself. You can't just be a robot. So let's dive into each of those. Let's dive into prepare your guests well. You should always do a prep call with your guests. That's going to help them get comfortable with their appearance on your show. And in this call, you're going to talk about general tone of the show, who are your listeners, how long is the show going to go, and you're going to cover conversation strings that you're going to want to cover, that you would like to cover. And then you're going to ask that guest, hey, is there anything additional that you want to make sure that you cover? Generally, this conversation goes 20 to 30 minutes, and it's going to lay the foundation for your entire episode while also giving the guest what they need to feel really confident and to feel valued. Now, unfortunately, sometimes there's just not time or opportunity to be able to have that prep call that's separate from your actual recording. So in those cases, schedule that recording with enough extra time on the front end so you can do a brief prep before the episode. You got to tighten it up here, but at least have your bullets ready of what you want to talk about in that show, because that's going to help prepare your guest. This is going to show that you value your guest's time and they're going to show up better for you. So number two, you have to prepare yourself well. So the way you prepare yourself makes a giant difference in the episode. You have to do your research on your guest, obviously. If your guest has a book, read at least the key themes of it. Bonus points if you read the whole book. Then you can incorporate those themes in the conversation, because that's going to open up that conversation in ways that you would never have imagined. And it gives your listeners a way to get some additional insight direct from the source, so they feel like they're getting insider knowledge. It also tells your guest that you take this seriously and you are not here to waste anyone's time. If your guest doesn't have a book, look at their industry, look at their background, then look at current trends going on there and read a few articles around those trends so that you are prepared to speak intelligently about them. You can also listen to other podcasts where the guest maybe appeared. This is going to give you some valuable insight into the personality of the guest and the way that they're likely to show up for your show. Are they going to be more conversational? Are they a little bit more professional? Are they really humorous? This way you can adapt your approach based on that learning. The last one here, share yourself. People listen to podcasts because they like the topic, but they continue listening because they like the host. And so that means you need to be open to this idea of establishing a relationship with your listeners and letting them into at least some of your life. So the best way to create genuine moments with your guests and your listeners is to be willing to be just a little bit vulnerable. Don't be afraid to admit, some things you struggle with, but watch out for oversharing, because remember, the show is about your guest in that case, not you, and you want to position those guests as heroes. If you've got questions, I would love to hear from you. I'd love to talk about what you're working on. Thanks for listening to this episode. Like us, rate us, subscribe, do all the things. And when you're making your content and you're creating this for yourself, remember there's only three things you got to do. Keep it clear, keep it consistent, and keep it compelling.